And so I'm going to save part 2 of this presentation regarding free energy explanations and deep dives into Nikola Tesla, the Great Pyramids, the suspicious deaths of modern free energy inventors, and the ancient apocalypse for later in this episode under the Money Runs the World and Lost Civilization sections. Highlights of the other presentation I gave: Down the Rabbit Hole, the best resources in understanding the UFO phenomenon, in which I'm going to give an overview of the best cases, the best documentaries, resources, people, podcasts, books, etc., in order to understand this ultra enigmatic physics bending phenomenon. So consider these next few minutes your guided orientation to the digital UFO library that I've spent years curating, and gain some insight to the most credible, complex, and mind-bending evidence surrounding the UFO phenomenon. And so after falling deep into the UFO rabbit hole, I have distilled this extensive search for truth into its most essential parts, which are all now available through my dedicated UFO website, thisandthatphenomenon.com. From my in-depth Substack essays and my carefully ranked documentary recommendations on Letterboxd, my curated podcast playlist on Spotify, comprehensive YouTube collections, and of course the master spreadsheet with thousands of videos, articles, and books organized by topic, I have curated a roadmap for anyone wanting to explore this physics-defying mystery. And my goal is not just to convince you that the phenomenon is real, but to showcase the premium resources that will let you decide for yourself whether we're witnessing alien visitors, suppressed free energy technology, or in all likelihood, both. And so also note the resources mentioned on the title page, which include some of the most profound documentaries, podcast episodes, articles, and news segments that transform my own understanding from left to right. We got Joe Rogan episode 1315 with Bob Lazar, the documentaries Moment of Contact, The Phenomenon, The Lost Century, Bob Lazar Area 51 and Flying Saucers, the now famous 2017 New York Times article that exposed the Pentagon's secret UFO program, which served as a catalyst for much of the declassification in recent history, CNBC's news segment of declassified footage by the names of Fleer, Gimbal, and GoFast, and of course Joe Rogan episode 1976 with Mr. James Fox. So before getting into the outline of This and That, Spotify is where I've accumulated and organized vast numbers of podcasts by categories and case. I want to especially highlight the Weaponized podcast hosted by Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, who are investigative journalists and filmmakers who have been instrumental in the declassification of UFO information over the past decade, and they also participated in the congressional hearings. Of course, I have to acknowledge the podfather Joe Rogan for featuring virtually all the most important voices in UAP disclosure on his show, including Commander David Fravor, who witnessed the Tic Tac UFO, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense Christopher Mellon, whistleblower David Grush, Navy pilot Ryan Graves, former AATIP Director Luis Elizondo, abductee Travis Walton, and the legendary researcher Jacques Vallée, among many others. These conversations have definitely brought credible UFO discussions into the mainstream. And so for those who prefer visual media, I have ranked and reviewed my top 20 UFO documentaries on Letterboxd. My top 4 recommendations for anyone starting their journey would be The Age of Disclosure by Dan Farah, The Phenomenon by James Fox, which provides the most comprehensive overview of the UFO history and evidence, The Program by James Fox, which investigates the Pentagon's secret UFO study efforts, and The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It by Stephen Greer, which explores how advanced technology may have been suppressed for decades. And so these films feature testimony from literally the highest ranking possible military officials, pilots, and government insiders that is essentially impossible to dismiss. So my Amazon storefront account compiles over 60 of the most important books on the UFO phenomenon. I especially recommend Dreamland, which tells Bob Lazar's controversial story of working on alleged extraterrestrial craft at Area S4 next to Area 51, which is written by the respected journalist George Knapp. Another essential read is Imminent by former AATIP Director Luis Elizondo, who resigned from his leadership position in the Pentagon's UFO program out of disgust with the lack of transparency. The book details the government's alleged multi-decade crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, which insiders have called Immaculate Constellation. And so a couple other must-read books for UAP disclosure include Robert Hastings' UFOs and Nukes and Inside the Real Area 51 by Thomas Carey about Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And so my YouTube channel features some of the most informative and compelling videos on the phenomenon, from Navy pilots describing their encounters on 60 Minutes to declassified DoD footage, documentary trailers, and full congressional hearings. I have organized dozens of playlists covering 30 plus significant cases, making it easy to find quality content on specific incidents or witnesses. The channel includes exclusive interviews with researchers and witnesses, analysis of government documents, and breakdowns of the most technically interesting UFO encounters. And so the visual evidence, particularly the authenticated military footage, definitely offers something that written accounts simply cannot convey. Some playlist highlights include many of the cases I've previously mentioned, as well as some overarching theories like the Anunnaki hypothesis, the Sumerian connection, and whether humanity may be the result of accelerated evolution and alien experimentation, which is why I call this theory the Earth Petri dish hypothesis. And so the past couple of years, as I've descended deeper into this rabbit hole, I've created extensive information catalogs organizing the best content on the phenomenon. My spreadsheet system categorizes resources by case, theory, or key figure, and then further breaks down the best podcasts, documentaries, clips, social media posts, articles, academic papers, and books all in one place. This system has evolved into a comprehensive database that allows users to quickly find credible information on any aspect of the UFO topic. And so these information catalogs are embedded in my UFO website, thisandthatphenomenon.com, which serves as a hub connecting all these resources. The site features embedded documentaries, podcast episode, news clips, and organized links to all the research materials we've discussed today. I've designed it to be accessible for newcomers while providing in-depth testimony for serious researchers as well. The site is going to be regularly updated as new information emerges, especially in light of ongoing developments with congressional hearings and whistleblower testimonies. And my goal here is to create the most comprehensive and credible UFO resource online, cutting through both the government secrecy and the noise of misidentifications and hoaxes to present the truly compelling evidence on the biggest mystery humanity has ever faced. And I genuinely believe what I've already curated in thisandthatphenomenon.com is probably one of the most extensive UAP databases on the entire internet.